from 84, when we opened the Newport. That was my life, hanging at rock and roll shows. That was a cool part of the early days. You were so much part of the team. Everybody was counting the bars out, and we were tipping the waitresses out, and everybody's talking about, the evening. And that was the camaraderie, was the late nights that you're with everybody. So that's the biggest thing that I probably miss is that once you've pulled off a big show, you get real. The people you talked to yesterday, that's why I'm close to those guys. I spent serious hours with those guys, serious hours. A lot of these younger employees, a lot of the employees have been with me 20, 25, 30 years. But we have a lot of younger people who have, as we've grown, we've hired. And I don't know, like I'll mention Polaris, they weren't even born, Or I'll mention certain bands and they're like, who? I mean, it's really weird that they don't really know the history of PromoWest. All they know is like the last 10 years maybe. They have no idea there was 35, 36 years before these last 10. I'm glad you guys asked me to do this podcast. That's one of the cool things is I hope some of those younger employees listen to it. They have no idea, all they know is, what's going on right now. So hopefully this podcast that you're doing, some of the younger employees will listen to it and go, whoa, I didn't know PromoWest did all that.
Stienecker, he kept a very low profile. He's from Columbus. He was a typical Midwest, not flashy. And a lot of the other people tried to be more flashy. He never really tried to be Hollywood. He's retiring in a way. You learn later that they're an all-time point scorer or up in the top 5, but you never knew it. That's kind of what Steinecker's doing. He was a steady Eddie, and Scott kept the lowest profile possible. He's sneaking it off to Montecito, running a good business in Columbus, and did thousands of bands over the years and just kept it real. As you get older and you realize what people did for a long time, it's kind of like hats off. Good job. I think he played it really well. But, if you look back at 40 years, it's like an investor that stayed true to their sectors and didn't get greedy, out of pocket. They didn't go into areas they didn't really understand. And left a lasting mark on the community. I'd say that's the best way to describe it. Quietly smart is probably the right operative word.
When I think of all the people that he's worked with, and I know pretty much the whole list, as many shows that we've done together, as many shows as he's done, I would be surprised if maybe we weren't the group he promoted the most shows with, because it's such a long-standing relationship. We're on our 50th anniversary tour right now. This year is our 50th year as a band. That guy has worked from the ground up to where he's at now, which is high above the ground. Scott was a big part of our team. He was really a part of our team at that point, what do you want to call it? He was in our corner, we knew it. The guy's just so even keeled. He's the most even keeled person I've ever met in the music business. Nothing rattles him, man, we've got this thing going on today, about, Live Nation. He told me that this was all messed up 15, 20 years ago, He'd been calling that shot for a long time.
The Justice Department announced it is suing Live Nation. This is the world's largest concert platform, and it is the parent company of Ticketmaster. But now the feds say it is time to break the two apart.
Here's a company that's pretty much the only publicly traded play on live entertainment. Not only do they produce and promote shows, but they own 167 venues in 7 countries. On top of that, Live Nation owns 4 of the 5 largest music festivals in North America. They've got an artist management business, and best of all, they own Ticketmaster.
The DOJ is now suing Live Nation and calling for its breakup from Ticketmaster. Now, Garland said the company abuses its market dominance by monopolizing all aspects of the business, from promotion, access to venues, and of course, ticket sales. Now, he says this unlawful practice hurts performers, stifles competition, and most importantly, he adds, squeezes fans by tacking on outrageous fees on ticket prices.
Live Nation relies on unlawful, anti-competitive conduct to exercise its monopolistic control over the live events industry in the United States. The result is that fans pay more in fees, artists have fewer opportunities to play concerts, smaller promoters get squeezed out, and venues have fewer real choices.
It's a changed industry now. Live Nation has changed it completely. Sillerman had bought those 8 promoters. They were unsuccessful, and Clear Channel bought it from Robert Sillerman. It was unsuccessful still. They spun it off and became Live Nation. And then you had Irving Azoff, one of the, if not the most powerful man in the industry, one of. When he went and ran Live Nation with Michael Rapino, they brokered the deal to buy Ticketmaster. So you had this merger of Ticketmaster with Live Nation. So I looked at that as a corporate trying to take over what all of us independents, Barry Fay in Denver and Bill Graham in San Francisco and Brian Murphy and John Meglin in LA and Danny Zalesko in Arizona and Jack Boyle and Ron Delsner in New York and John Stoll in Florida and Alex Hodges in Atlanta. And all of us independent promoters were being taken over by this huge conglomerate. It was all loyalty. If you played Columbus, you played for me. If you played in Pittsburgh, you played for Rich Engler. If you played in San Francisco, you played for Bill Graham. It was a loyalty thing. That has changed now that there's 2 companies, Live Nation and AEG. The loyalty has gone out the window. It's who's going to pay me the most money. So it's unfortunate, but you've lost the fun part of the business. The loyalty part of it is gone now. And it's such a big part of the industry now are the rebates that the ticketing companies throw off. So if this DOJ thing does go through, it could really change the industry. It could really change Live Nation's world. And then AEG came along, and AEG was owned by Phil Anschutz. It was independent. Live Nation is publicly held, so they have to show revenues growing every quarter, where being independent and not publicly held, you have to try and show a profit.
Right.
So we're both in the concert business, but we're driven by different principles. So you're either one of those 2 players now, and I had to make the decision, am I going to go with Live Nation or am I going to go with AEG? And I chose AEG.
And why?
Sean Trell, the guy I cut the deal with at AEG, said you can keep your name PromoWest and you can keep all your employees, and we're an independent. We're just like being a big independent. But those 3 reasons were why I took less money from AEG than my offer from Live Nation, because I could keep the name. If I went Live Nation, we would have been a Live Nation office. I wouldn't have been able to keep all my employees because they do a lot of stuff out of LA and New York, so they don't regionalize like I do. I have teams in every building, and I would have lost all that. They've been with me for a long time. So those were 2 keys. Keep the name PromoWest, keep my employees. So yeah, those were 2 driving forces.
But rumor has it that you gave AEG, you gave Trell your word, and then Live Nation came after that and offered you more money to peel you away.
Correct. I said, no, I'm already in talks with AEG, and I've signed a 90-day stipulation not to talk to other people. And the guy, I won't mention the guy's name from Live Nation, said, all right, well, we'll give you X amount more. Call me on the 91st day. So he knew I had that 90-day window, and when I didn't call him, I struck the deal, did the deal with Sean Trell. Yeah, he's been upset ever since. And I know that because Jimmy Sacco, the Heinz Field guy over in Pittsburgh, who I deal with, has told me that the guy's still upset that I never called him.
Well, old school is a great way. I love doing things based on relationship. Because when you can trust somebody, it's going to go well. And if you end up having a problem, you're both going to be able to tackle it. Nobody's trying to get over on anybody else. Scott, I really enjoy working with, because I would call him with some ideas that I would have for shows. And I'd say, what do you think? What do you think? He goes, it's pretty good. That's good. Oh, you should probably, and we would start talking price, what it would work, and because sometimes, look, even on the promotion side of the label business, they don't really work in this game at all, but they're my main contact when you're talking to these bands, and they're just hearing what management's telling them. So when I come back and say, guys, that's kind of a pie in the sky price on that artist. I mean, they're only putting, according to my guys, they're only putting this many seats in, can you come down? And, then we can work it from that angle. So it was a really great working relationship to put what I thought was, for several years. I mean, it's getting harder and harder to do that, obviously, because bands are asking more and more and more. But for several years, I think we just put a tremendous product on display.
That's what I'll miss the most, that ease of operation. Scott was easy, man. He would make stuff happen. It was, sort of listen, elaborate, execute. Done. That was it. That was sort of his three tenets right there. The tent pole pillars of what he did. It was sort of listen, elaborate. Okay, so we can do this, and then boom, execute. That was what made it so easy. I mean, he allowed us to extend our brand to his venues when we were there. Put up signage, have your truck out front. Yes, if the band's okay with, we'd love to have you MC on stage. We want to bring your entire staff on stage and do the announcement. That's great. Do that. Allowing the entire team to come on stage and say, hey, here's my morning show, my midday, my afternoon, my weekends. Allowing those things to happen created that engagement and an extension of the radio station to the music venue. It allowed us to become out of the virtual world of this intangible product, which was air, and suddenly we could be physical. And we were there at shows, and we were physical and real, and we could be touched. And that was, again, raw and weird for a radio station because a lot weren't. They weren't able to do that because they didn't have real bodies. And allowing us to have this connection with the audience only emboldened us to be even more so connected to the brand of PromoWest and the audience. So again, it's sort of that three-sided thing. Is it good for the audience? Is it good for the advertiser? Is it good for the station? And that's the thing. It had to be good for the audience. If it's good for the audience, the artist is going to benefit. If the artist is going to benefit, Scott's going to benefit. We're going to benefit. The audience is going to benefit. Everyone is mutually sort of assured that this will be a good experience.
PromoWest brand, I'm probably what it stands for. It's professionalism. When I'd settle with people, I'd write them a check or I'd wire them the money, and their big thing was, God, you're so professional. And I was, I dressed different, and I wasn't that long-haired, let's do drugs in the bathroom promoter. I was, here's your money and thanks. And it was professional, is what people always said about PromoWest. That's the most thing that I'm proud of with my staff. I mean, if you ask about PromoWest, they'll say the same thing. Back when I was running everything, and now when these guys are all running everything, it's the same thing. Those guys are pros, they're professional. You have to care that there's a bottle sitting over there, or you have to care what somebody might say about the venue, that they didn't have a good time. If you care, it works. And if you don't, we get rid of you. Right. I mean, it's always been, and not in a mean way. If you haven't bought into what Doug and Liz and Pete and all these guys drill into your head every night before a show, if you don't buy into that, then we replace you. We have people who have bought into PromoWest. So they treat all the bands, and that's how we want them treated. We want the band to feel like they're special at that level because they might be the next Fall Out Boy.
I mean, look, again, that's a testament to, again, what Scott's built in Columbus. I always felt like the live performance aspect was the most integral part in my ability to get the job done, if you will. And I always felt like the best way to do that was to be there and to create, the partnership with the venue and, ultimately the radio station, because I wanted my bands to be well represented in the community that they were playing. So I always felt like the hand-to-hand, holding was a very, very, very important part of what I did. But live music continues to reign supreme, and perhaps even greater now with the popularity of country. It's not easy out there on the road, but live music still puts people in the rooms. There are a couple of people I could point to through my years of being really instrumental in Columbus music. And certainly you can't have that conversation without Scott Stienecker. But yeah, Scott it's amazing what he's done. And again, the concept of keeping it as intimate as possible while dabbling with the handful of the right big shows that he's done, I mean, is for me and my heart, that's what I love. Kudos to you, Scott, and thank you for doing what you did for Columbus.
I've done everything I could have set out to do. I mean, I've owned and operated 14 venues. I've done stadium shows, festivals, tons of arena shows, managed a band, produced a TV show. I mean, you saw that poster. We've done 20 companies, and they're all based around concerts.
Here's what we know. 46 years in the live entertainment business, 40 years as the CEO of PromoWest, a top 20 independent rock and roll promoter of all time, 14 owned and operated branded venues, while pioneering the country's first indoor-outdoor stage. PromoWest venues have been voted the #1 facility in Columbus, Ohio for 40 consecutive years. You were named a top 100 influential business leader by Columbus Business First. And Venue Magazine crowned you one of the top venue operators in the country. That's 15,000 shows, 20 million attendees, 600 million in economic impact. And recently, you were named as one of Billboard's touring power players of 2024.
I asked you, and the way I put it was, what are you going to do, after you retire, after you quit, once you walk away, you're not quitting, but retire. What are you going to do after this?
Yeah. I'm retiring from AEG and the business, but I'm not probably going to ever retire from being an entrepreneur.
Showmaker, the never-told stories of rock and roll, is brought to you by Art Makes Columbus, Anheuser-Busch, and Mikey's Late Night Slice.